Hello, I'm Steve Stafford of the law firm of Brown & Strezza. Thank you for joining me for this next installment of our educational video series, All Business is Personal, a general counsel's perspective on growing, protecting, and maximizing the value of your closely held business. In this video, we're going to focus on liability protection, corporate governance, and maintaining the corporate veil. How do we maximize the liability protection available from a corporation or an LLC? Well, we do this by making sure that we are treating the business as a separate legal entity and maintaining written documentation demonstrating that we are following all of the corporate formalities when the business entity is formed. We then continue to maintain the corporate formalities and stay in compliance with all Secretary of State filings, annual meeting, and corporate governance requirements every year. Regardless of whether you are operating your business as a corporation or as an LLC, which do not have the same level of statutorily required formalities, you should maintain written documentation that clearly establishes that the business entity is not merely your alter ego. In addition, it is very helpful for business owners to understand what the corporate veil is and why it is so important. The corporate veil is the legal term used to describe the separation between the assets of a legal entity and the personal assets of the shareholders, directors, and officers, or LLC members and LLC managers. In other words, the corporate veil shields the personal assets of the company's principals from being used to pay the company's debts, lawsuits, or other legal obligations. And of course, no discussion of liability protection would be complete without discussing the importance of making sure that the business has the appropriate insurance policies in place with sufficient amounts of coverage before you start conducting business. You should talk with your insurance broker at least once a year to determine whether any coverage amounts should be increased, whether there are any gaps between an underlying policy and the excess coverage or umbrella policy, or if there are any additional policies that should be added. For example, should the company look into policies such as employer practices liability insurance, EPLI, or cyber liability insurance? A business owner should never assume that their risks are covered without first consulting with their insurance broker and reviewing the applicable policy to confirm the coverage. To illustrate the importance of not going on autopilot regarding your insurance coverage, I once had a client who inadvertently let their workers' compensation policy lapse, and an employee was seriously injured on the job. Unfortunately, that was a very expensive and stressful lesson for them to learn. Thanks for joining me. I hope you will tune into the next installment where I'll be discussing financial planning, tax planning, and banking considerations for closely held businesses. Finally, as a reminder, this video is for educational and information purposes only and should not be taken as legal or tax advice. Thank you.